Do the attorneys on the panel believe the state has presented a case to convict Melly of double murder beyond a reasonable doubt to face the death penalty?
Well, I'll give my perspective as a criminal defense attorney. I think that they have laid a case. This is not the penalty phase. This is the guilt or innocence phase. I think that they have laid a case at this stage beyond a reasonable doubt for murder as to both of the victims in the case. And the reason that I think that is because they showed that Melly was at the location. Now, beyond a reasonable doubt, that's up to the jury, but I think this is just my opinion. He was at the location in the vehicle. He was in the position that he would have needed to be in order to be the shooter. And then he texted someone saying, "I did that." And I feel like when you tell a jury not to put their common sense aside, common sense would dictate that he's the person who did it. The defense has some things to argue and to play with there, but I think that the prosecution has laid a case.
Very interesting, Natalie. Great perspective. Since you are a criminal defense attorney, you know how this works. Were you surprised, and this is just my follow-up question to you, Natalie, that the defense only called one witness? We had expected to possibly hear from an expert type witness. And if you were surprised, were you surprised that it was Adrian Davis?
Well, I was surprised that it was Adrian Davis, but the reason I was surprised is because I was on here with Michelle, and I said, well, there's no way they have an alibi witness. And they actually had an alibi witness, someone who sat there and said that YNW Melly was not with his phone, that he was not in the car at the time of the shooting, that they found out about the shooting at the same time as each other. That's completely risky. I would hope that there's no negative consequences to this gentleman in the future if Mr. Demmons is found to be guilty. Them only calling him as a witness, though, I think was very good defense strategy, because they have someone to say the words out loud. Mr. Demmons was not there, YNW Melly was not there. And I don't think it would have helped them to call the phone expert, because they're conceding that his phone was at the scene, so they don't need to question that expert. And it seems like they wouldn't have had a crime scene reconstructionist who would have said that the victims were shot in a drive-by shooting. So if you don't have the evidence, you just can't present what you don't have. They kept it tight, and I thought that was a good idea.
Very interesting, Natalie. Interesting perspective there. At Just Chillin' here, I think we've heard from at Just Chillin' here before too, Terry, from Twitter. Also, if acquitted, could the prosecution change Cortland's indictment from accessory to actual first-degree murder?
Well, Just Chillin', I definitely think the prosecution could change the indictment to anything they want to based on what this jury states as far as YNW Melly is concerned. They are going to have to change their theory. Let's assume, as you've asked, that he is acquitted. If he's acquitted, they have to figure out who the shooter is. So if they determine that they think the shooter then at that point could have been Cortlands, then they will have to have some sort of theory. They will have to look at what the charges are. They could go up or down. They could say, look, we don't have anyone else who's the shooter. We can go up. We can say that this is a death penalty case. They can, they give notice to the other side and totally change their strategy, or they could go down. Or, and I do think this is a distinct possibility, I think they could approach each other and perhaps they could hash out a plea bargain at that point. So anything is possible if there's an acquittal, and frankly, anything is possible if there is a conviction. I think the prosecution at that point would be free to negotiate something else or to change their theory at the trial that's upcoming for Cortlands Henry.
Mm-hmm. We have another question from at Just Chillin' here, Michael, and I'll send this one over to you. If Melly should be found not guilty, could Cortland's lawyers still try to pin the crime on Melly like Melly's lawyers tried to pin on Cortland? And if so, would that strategy then even still be advisable?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a better argument. And Just Chillin', you're really writing a lot of questions for somebody who's just chillin'. But, if
there's another one, too.
If you look at the shooter reconstruction information, it looks like all the shots were fired, if you believe the guy, from the back seat. Well, I don't think there's any dispute that Cortland Bortland was in the front seat. So it makes it harder for Melly to point the finger at Mr. Henry, but it makes it easier for Mr. Henry to point the finger at Mr. Demmons, assuming he was in the car. We know we have conflicting stories about that, but we don't have a lot of conflicting information about the trajectory of the bullets. So unless you're sitting in that driver's seat and you reach back and you're shooting, backwards across your body, the trajectory doesn't make any sense. So I think it's a better argument that Demons can say no, that Cortland can say no, Demons did it. I was in the wrong seat. The evidence doesn't match.
And I wonder, too, if he could then get up on the stand, Michael, you've got me thinking here, and he could get up on the stand and say, I freaked out and lied, he did it, and I was just under duress. Yeah,
you know, I think there's a lot of interplay between these guys, kind of this, honor among thieves, as it were, and I don't think anybody's going to be ratting anybody else out. I just don't think that's the way they operate.
Interesting. Yeah, there's that no snitch culture. I remember that from when I worked in local news covering a lot of homicide cases. It was a big problem in prosecuting cases. People didn't want to be labeled a snitch. All right, let's get to more questions after this break. Keep them coming to us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Stay with us. I'm Jeanette Levy. You are watching Law and Crime. We'll be right back.